always, we start with our session schedule to see what we cover. So obviously we are covering strategic leadership today, and but I also want to cover a couple of areas today. One is some of you have sent me the slot task 1. So task 1, I have some feedback to all of you. So that's what I want to cover first. Then number 2, we have some thing we need to cover from last Sunday, that is Skinner's ABC model, which is very interesting. And also I want to go through the tracker and understand whether there are any changes. And number 4, I want to cover this strategic leadership area and possibly have a summary of our entire session. But the good thing is, unlike other times, we're going to keep in touch and we're going to meet every Sunday so that we can carry on with our assessment preparation and give you more support. And yeah, so we have done right up to this point. So today we are left with session 10 to look at strategic leadership. Now, if you see, this whole thing is about 2 things. Slot, strategic leadership and organizational transformation. So these 3 are more concerned about organizational transformation, and up to this point, it is more to do with leadership. So I think it's a very interesting module slot in many ways, because it's something that we can personally learn and personally develop as leaders, right? Okay, so we have time from 1:45 to 3:15, right? Okay, so make sure you don't fall asleep, and let's see whether we can look at some feedback. So I took the liberty to do a small presentation on common mistakes as a means of learning what we have done up to now. And what I felt is, when I gave feedback to people, I felt that I'm repeating myself a lot, and I wanted to cut and paste the comments, but I didn't want to do that. But I wrote everything separately, but I felt that I'm repeating myself quite a lot. So before you send in the second draft, and for those who have not submitted the first section, I think this one will be helpful for you to get some idea. So I have, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 6 slides of feedback, right? So let's see what they are. I'll try to take you through this. Now, first one is headings and subheadings. I think whenever you write something, whether it's 1,000 words or any kind of report, it's important that you give a good heading to it. And these are not one word heading saying task one. Try to give a heading to your task one. Now, once you go through these 6 slides, you will see, even though it's 1,000 words, the kind of depth that you can go into and make it very profound than just, okay, I have to write 1,000 words. I feel that this is more than 1,000 words. This is your final self-development. Assessment is a part of your self-development. How do you focus this? Write it a couple of times. That improves you really, right? Actually, that personal transformation comes from writing this assessment. So try to get some good headings and subheadings. And I have said meaningful ones, not these one word headings that a lot of people use. Right? Evaluation of key leadership theories and applying to a selected leader. Then we know, okay, this assignment is about uh, you're trying to evaluate some key leadership theories, right? Evaluating or assessing contemporary leadership models and application to modern leaders. Okay, so that is about evaluating contemporary leadership theory and assessing or comparing that with current leaders, right? Does current leaders follow uh, follow leadership theory? Question mark, or two dots, an assessment of such and such leader. So you can bring about a lot of excitement, a lot of focus to your assignment by bringing a good heading and meaningful ones. Introduction, uh, introduction or uh, defining defining transformation and transactional leadership theories. You can bring some or an exploration of modern leadership theories. You can bring a nice heading to it. Now, don't bring these same headings. Use some innovative ones. I know that you're much more innovative than me. Then the next one is formatting. Now, normally when you ask students about this, the response is, I will add later. This is a standard response from students. I'll do it later finally. Why haven't you formatted your assignment for the draft? No. Normally I format it at the end. No, you start with incorporating the right formatting. And this particular assignment, even how to do the numbers, they have given a format. So the whole idea is thinking, oh, WTF, I have to do all of this stuff. No. How do you respond to somebody's brief in life? A board asks for a report, you give your own format. And board members are all confused. Why? You did not give in the format that they wanted. You have a foreign supplier or a foreign customer, they send a format, you completely ignore that format and you give in your format. Now, this is a habit that we need to create. What is the format that they're asking, and can we give them that format? So, the font, the spacing, the margins, paper size, how to mark the page numbers, all of that is very, very important. And do not use bullet points anywhere. I think This is a important one, not to use bullet points anywhere, right? Anywhere you should not use bullet points. It has to be paragraphs or some kind of numbering is okay. The simple thing is, when you have bullet points down or up there, you can't refer to this bullet point. But if you have something like this, you can easily refer to that in a paragraph. Okay, so those are the first two. Second or third one is referencing. I think referencing overall is quite poor. I think out of the ones that I marked, I saw two which had very good referencing, right? You need to reference all the work other than your own ideas or thoughts. Say, when we just write something, leadership is about the influence one has over a group of individuals. Where did you take this from? You took it from my slides. So, Alahakoon 2020. You can refer to my lecture notes and lecture slides. XYZ Holdings was incorporated in 1921 and managed as a family-owned business. This is not a thought that it came in the bathroom for you. This you took from Prospectus, 2018. So you need to reference all these things other than your own thoughts. And then create a list of references at the end, and again creating list of references, Harvard style. Still, students do this for references, or some students do this for references, or some students use this style. This is APA, American Psychological Association style. You don't use that, right? So creating a list of references, right? And also referring to all the work that you take from others. Now, one other thing is, your entire document can't be referenced with Alahakoon 2020. That means you have not gone beyond the PowerPoints that we have given you. That's why a couple of these are okay, but generally you need to look for some good documents. So overall referencing is very poor, and the referencing is particularly poor in the introduction session and those areas, because people think I can just write about John Fields or Mabrock or any other company and then just leave it as it is. So very important to look at references. Then balance the contents. Some people write a massive introduction and half of that is only literature review about leadership. This is all introduction, getting there, and this is what I have to say. No, balance your contents. Have a small intro. Be very tight on the intro and write more about the leadership theories, right? So more is needed in leadership theory, and also I must tell you, use some interesting theories. Everyone is Tenenbaum and Smith, and 5 types of power, and transactional and transformation leadership. So while this assignment is asking a little bit about transformational leadership, that's okay. But look at Percy Blanchard, because those are real good ones to compare. Of course, some have used Daniel Goleman's 6 leadership style also. So that's good. But more I want to focus on this area and managing the contents. So plan it out. Okay, I want to have an intro. I want to have the body. I want to have conclusion. I want to have reflection. How many words am I writing in these? Or do you just write a 400-word introduction and figure out, okay, I have an introduction, that's all I have. then the balance is very, very short. So balance the contents. Then connecting the dots. Now, there are two main sections here. One is about leadership theory. Other one is application. Now, there should be a connection between these two. And if you are using transactional and transformation leadership, and say you're using 6 leadership styles here, use the same two to evaluate your leader. Don't bring A here, B here, and a C to evaluate the leader on something else. You talk about transformation and transactional leadership, 6 leadership theories, and you bring 5 power to evaluate this leader. So there is no real connection between the two sections. And given the word count, actually 1 to 2 theories are more than enough, so long you go a little in depth in this. We have even given you permission to go 3, but I think 2 also is enough. And some of the ones lack visual aids, right? Lack visual aids. I want to talk about these visual aids. It's very nice to bring 5 forms of power, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then use a spider type diagram or something to show where the leader is. And the other thing is, when you do that, mention where you got this from. Is this your estimate? Some have not just mentioned that at all. This is like, here's a spider type diagram. It looks like you have taken it from a printed document somewhere, or at the entrance to your office, 5 types of leadership is done for all the leaders in your company at the reception, and you have taken a picture of that. But mention it's your estimate, or mention, did you get it from an interview or your own experience? Is it your estimate? Right? Mention that. Then the other thing is, when you use diagrams, you need something called figure 1, dot, and mention where it is. Ideally, this can be entirely inserted through Word, so you can create a list of figures if you want later. And then something called source is needed to mention where you got it from. Lots of people have pictures in their reports, no source. Basically, it's stolen articles from other places. So please mention where you have taken it from, bring some visual aids, right? And if it's 6 leadership styles, try to look at them and mark these 1 to 5 or something, and say what is 5 and what is 1. Now these are completely left for imagination, that sometimes 5 can be not practicing and 1 can be practicing very well. That means 1 being good, 5 means poor. Or it can be the other way around, but mention that as illustrated in figure 2.2, this particular leadership style was mapped based on an estimate of the author. In this diagram, 1 means the practice is poor and 5 means the practice is 100%. Now bring that, because somebody else is reading this, otherwise you don't know how to look at it. Okay, so connecting the dots, what you write in the theory area and what you write in the application area needs to complement. And then that also, these illustrations are important, and mark them figure and mark all these axes, all of them. Now, a lot of you have, when you say analyze or apply, you have written a farewell speech uh, for your leader. Very good farewell speech. I think you should save it for his or her farewell rather than for the assignment, because you know why? Everything is good. I mean, these leaders are practically very close to God, the way you have written, because everything about them is so good. I'm actually looking forward to meeting some of them because they are textbook, they're like textbook people, right? And yeah, I think amazing. If HBR or somebody finds them, amazing guys, right? So what we want is a critical evaluation, not a farewell speech or after they die, what you tell them at the church or something. What a nice person he was, right? So, so that's not what we are looking for in the assignment, right? So keep this for your farewell speech, and please do a critical evaluation, right? Okay. Now, say for example, some leaders I have seen like this. Uh, sorry. What am I doing? Uh, Daniel Goleman, 6 leadership styles. Now, this is practically God. Right? I mean, this is 5, this is 4. That means this dude is supersonic, right? All these are 5 and this is 4. And visionary, pace setting, uh, amazing. So actually, we need to go to him, but be very critical, right? You know what I'm saying? Being critical. Yeah, everyone is sending smileys. Uh, so make it very critical, because you know why? Say for example, in this axis, think about 5 and 1. 1 beings doesn't practice at all. 5 means practices 100%. So you have 2, 3, 4. Now 3 means a very good position. 3 means. 4 means 4 means exceeds, and 5 means outstanding. This means good, poor, weak, right? Now this means he or she is practicing this 100% all the time. This is exceeds, exceptional. This means fairly good. There is practice, but not all the time. Here, occasional practice, never practice. Now, you need to have that idea in your mind before you write this assessment, right? So this is not about, uh, you know, how nice you are. And this leader is so good, has done all the good to this company. He left. I'm very sad about it. No, this is a critical evaluation of his leadership style. And the other thing is that leader might be a good transactional leader, may not be so good in transformation leadership. Now, transactional, you have 4 areas, right? Transactional, you have 4 areas, and transformational, you have 4 areas. So look at where that person is in this. So do it in Excel and try to bring your estimate of this person. So don't do farewell speeches, please. I know that you guys are very good at this, but what we need is to what extent, and then ask why or why not. Why is this person using this often, and why is this person not using this often? Right? That's where the critical analysis is needed. And the other thing is very important to conclude and reflect. Now, some of your ones didn't have the conclusion and the reflection. Conclusion means both from the lit review and the application, what did you gain? What are your insights? What are your key takes? Right? So there might be some key takes, right? That Percy Blanchard theory is still valid for today's context, and and leaders can really make use of that model to become better leaders. Or you can conclude and say Percy Blanchard model has its own weaknesses in today's context to give direction to contemporary leaders. Then do a reflection. What does this mean to you as a leader? Right? For me, what does this mean? What I learned today? How do I use it in my development? In fact, I am more transactional type. I want to get into more transformation side. I'm good in this area of using power, but this one I want to develop, and I can see how this leader is behaving. Therefore, I can learn from him. So bring about some uh, reflection there for yourself. Two neat paragraphs at the end, some nice tight conclusions, and then a reflection. Okay, so that's all I have for you, and I thought I can give you that kind of feedback. Any questions or any thoughts about this?
Yeah, honestly, let's say if we are preparing a chart or figure, so can we mention for the source as author developed or something?
Yeah, author's construction.
Okay.
Yeah, it's it's a kind of a conceptual presentation or constructed by the author.
Dusty, also, you mentioned about using your own headings and stuff like that. Now, in doing that, that doesn't count into our word count, or does it?
It does.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Also, in terms of the leadership, now you mentioned that where did we get the information? If we are writing a leader about one of our leaders, can we say that this is our own experience, or how can we work that?
Yeah, so you can, I mean, when you start, either in the introduction or in the application area, you can mention that uh, uh, the second section or the application area is constructed with author's own experience about this particular leader. Or you can say the application section is constructed or formulated after interviewing XYZ about this author and his behavior. So you can mention like that. Yeah. So, any other thoughts?
Actually, there's a message from Isuru in the message box.
Yes, I saw that. Okay. Some of us got formatting, headings, referencing, and flow-related feedback. Does this mean contents and our understanding is fair? Yeah, and and uh, one thing you can do is you can uh, you can further develop it based on this. And also you must remember our feedback is whether you can pass or fail. But if you're really looking for a credit or a distinction, you'll have to do more. And and uh, obviously, when we give feedback, that means uh, we can we can you can develop actually more. Yeah. Uh, Cameron, am I co-host in this? Can I share some document?
Yeah, you are co-hosting. You can share.
How do I share the document?
You will need to open it and then select share screen, and then you'll be able to select the document.
No, no. How do I just attach in the chat so that everyone can get it?
You'll have to then send the link through the chat. Just copy the link and
No, no. Earlier I used to give documents through this. I used to give documents through this. Chat. Okay, so what I'll do is, Cameron, I'll send you a just a minute. Meanwhile, any questions till I do this?
See, can we have another session on guiding us in the second task?
Yeah, but for me to kind of, yeah, I can do that. But the common mistakes I will be able to do it. Yeah, we can do that. So I have sent this to uh, uh, send this to everyone. I can't share for some reason today. Now, last time I shared on this. Yeah, but I have sent it to Cameron. Cameron will give it to everyone.
Yeah, I'll send it to everyone via email.
Yeah. All right, and I think yeah, they will share the assessment or tracker. That's okay. Okay. So can you see it's very very a lot of depth in that when you look at it really. You can do a very nice job, and that will be a very good uh, very good way of developing yourself. Now for the next one, can you all take a piece of paper and paper with you, please? Paper and a pen. You might have to do a small activity. Okay. Last time's class, uh, we looked at this. We looked at this Skinner's ABC model. Uh, to insert in the slide. Okay, this Skinner's ABC model, I want to take you through this because practically this is a very nice one to know about organization behavior. Uh, uh, and this was quite an old model. This is the Skinner, kind of a organizational psychologist. But his ABC theory is quite famous and quite useful, right? Now, this theory talks about if you want to change people, right? If you want to change people, what is the way of changing them? And Skinner said all these three things are important, right? What are the three? Antecedents. Antecedents means warnings, communication, telling people how to do things. Now, typically in an organization, there are posters, there are placards, there are notices, warning signs. Now, when we go on the road also, we have speed limits. All the road signs are antecedents. Similarly, in a factory setting, you have a lot of antecedents. Similarly, in a company, you have a lot of antecedents, code of conduct, uh, bylaws of the company, rules and regulations, policies of the company. Some are put on notice boards, some come as notices, some come as posters, lots of antecedents. Then these antecedents govern behavior. Why does antecedents govern behavior? Because people believe that this behavior gives rise to consequences, right? This behavior gives rise to consequences or outputs. So this is the basic ABC model of Skinner: antecedents, behavior, and consequences. Now, these consequences can be, these consequences can be either positive or negative. It can be either positive or negative. Or that means the consequence is happy, positive, or unhappy, negative. You can get a positive consequence or a negative consequence from this behavior. If you come to work at the right time, somebody says you're very good, you come to work every day on time, recognition, positive consequence. Negative consequence, somebody tells you, I'm going to cut your salary because you're getting late. So there is a negative consequence. The consequence can be immediate or delayed. What does that mean? It could be immediate or delayed. Sometimes the consequence can be now, today, very moment, or it can be delayed, right? Putting your finger into a fire, right? Putting your finger into fire, is that a negative or positive consequence? It's a negative consequence. Is it immediate or delayed? It's immediate. Immediately it burns your finger. Sometimes the consequence can be delayed, right? Consequence is delayed. That means you get the result after 1 year, 2 years, 20 years, half an hour late, right? Delayed consequence. Then certain or uncertain. That means it's sure you're getting the consequence or not sure that you will get this particular outcome. Now we have a couple of things. We have a P and an N here, and we have an I and a D here, and we have a C and a U here. And so any outcome can be either positive, immediate, or certain. All three are applicable. All these three are applicable for every outcome. It can be positive, delayed, certain. It can be positive, immediate, uncertain. So calculate and tell me, one is, if you see, PIC is one outcome. How many outcomes are there like this? Can you write on the piece of paper and tell me how many 3-letter outcomes are there? Take 5 minutes, please. If you are not clear, please ask me.
Just one thing, what does U stand for in the last one?
Uncertain. Certain and uncertain.
Can you give us an example for that one?
I'm smoking, and people say you get cancer. Is that certain or uncertain?
All right.
Uncertain, right?
Yeah, answer.
Yeah, that's what uncertain. Okay, guys, tell me what are the outcomes that you have? Can someone type all the outcomes that we can get? Can someone type? Who's good at this? Okay. There is one chat coming through. Positive delayed. You need all three. Only the first three letters. Now one is PIC is one outcome. Okay, so let's do this. One outcome is PIC, right? PIC. The next outcome is, okay, somebody's okay there. Yeah, there is one called NDU and there is one called NIC. Okay, so we take NIC here. That means NIC. Right? Then there is something called PIU. Correct? Yeah. Then PIU is there. PIC we took. Then there is PDU. Then there is NIC we took, NDC and NDU. So how many outcomes are there? Somebody has done. Where is PUN? There is nothing called PU. Yeah, PDU and PUD is the same. So 6 outcomes. You can have 6 outcomes. Okay, good. Now look at these 6 outcomes. What Skinner is saying is, based on these antecedents, some behavior is dictated, but based on the consequences, the behavior is reshaped again. So the strength of this behavior depends on the strength of the consequence. So that's why we try to look at the strength of the consequence based on these 6 outcomes, right? I'll take a very common example, smoking. I don't know how many of you smoke or how many don't smoking, right? When you smoke, what's the consequence out of these 6? When you smoke, what's the consequence out of these 6?
Negative in NDC.
Are you a smoker?
I'm not a smoker.
That's a problem. Smoker, tell me, what's your consequence? There, I think a smoker is coming through in the text. Oshad is. So, Oshad, are you a smoker?
Not at all.
That's a problem. Smoker, I'm looking for a smoker.
He is.
Change.
So for a smoker, this is the act of smoking. Okay, let's see whether somebody got it. Yes, exactly. So smoking, you get a kick, so therefore it's positive. And that kick is immediate. The moment you smoke, you know that. And is it certain or uncertain? Yeah, every time I smoke, I get that. Then there is a non-smoking board. Non-smoking board, and it says you might get cancer. Now, that message is positive or negative? Negative. This cancer, is it immediate or delayed? Delayed. Is it certain or uncertain? Uncertain. So, this particular message is a NDU. Right? NDU. Right? Which is a very weak, very weak consequence. That is why people never give up smoking. Right? Take another example. Speed limit is 50. Right? Okay. Going fast, is it positive or negative? Positive. P. Moment you go fast, you get a fine or not? No, not really. It's delayed. And is it certain or uncertain? Uncertain. So that's why people speed still, because this is a very weak consequence. Unless the consequence is nick, unless the consequences is pick or nick, people will never do what you want them to do. All these are certainly weak consequences. So look at from the person's perspective. And if the outcome is any of these, try to convert it to a pick or a nick. Example. You're telling someone to wear PPE, personal protective equipment. Now for the person who's wearing earplugs, right? What are we telling? If you don't wear earplugs, your hearing will get impacted. You go deaf. Okay? You go deaf. But for the person who's wearing earplugs, is it a positive or negative consequence? Negative. And this going deaf, is it immediate or delayed? Delayed. Is it certain or uncertain? No. There were so many people who didn't wear earplugs, they are perfectly okay. So uncertain. Very weak consequence. How do you change it into a strong consequence? How do you either make it a pick or a nick? If I catch anyone wearing earplugs, I appreciate that person and give a gift voucher. Is it positive? Yes. Is it immediate? Yes. Every time I catch, I give, it's certain. People will now wear earplugs. When I catch someone without wearing an earplug, I want to give them a $5 fine. Is it negative? Yes. Do you get the $5 fine? Yes, immediate. Do you get it for sure? Yes, certain. So convert this weak consequence to a positive or a negative, pick or a nick, if you want a behavioral change. So think about various behaviors that you have in office that are very difficult to control. Try and see, you might find they are one of these four and they are not one of these two. So try to bring this to a pick or a nick so that that consequence can drive behavior. It's a very simple model, but it's a very nice one to change behavior over time in an organization by making is a pick or a nick. Yeah, that's what countries have done where they fix cameras on the road, so they make it a nick straight away. It's certain, negative, and it's immediate. Fines, right? So think about that. That's quite a interesting model to work on if you want to change somebody's behavior. Okay, so so to change behavior, right? What are the combinations that you can work? It's either pick or nick. Absence of these two might have some people not behaving in the same way. Yeah.
Dusty, a quick question.
Yeah.
Dusty, when we are now promoting flexible working, flexible hours, you don't really impose like difficult decisions at office if you really want to like get the maximum out of especially the younger generation. And managing team members in a line is quite different to how we manage executives. In a case of that, if you can explain it in a practical sense, doing these kind of things may also negatively impact. How do you find that balance?
Yeah. So if you're thinking that you want to make it much more progressive, practice this. Make the outcome more positive. But the problem is the behavior gets weaker and weaker if these two are not there. If they think it's delayed or uncertain. See, for example, this is how most of the reward and recognition programs are also built. Do you have to work for the company for 10 years to get a gold coin? Or should you have more instant rewarding methods? Right? So it need not be nick all the time, but it can be pick also where the outcome is positive for people. But how do you make it more instant and certain? Because otherwise, now especially this Skinner's ABC theory is good to change behavior in the short term. But if some behavior is embedded in the company as a culture for a longer period of time and that is positive and you don't want to change it, perfectly okay. But if there is a particular behavior that you want changed, right? Catch people doing the right stuff, right? And reward behavior for certain practices for working from home. Uh, the the person who has sent most amount of reviews or the person who has sent most amount, but make it certain also. But if people think, okay, don't know whether I'll be rewarded or not, no, announce every week we are going to have a winner. Every week we are going to select a team. So make it certain for people to understand, yeah, this is happening. This is positive is happening. And it's instant because it's immediate because every week it's happening. So you can make it a pick one as well.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? All right. Okay, so we have to look at the last one a little bit. I will not go into details a lot about the last one. Uh, what are the roles of a strategic leader, right? Uh, to get ideas and to kind of get contrasting points so that you can come with more new ideas. Some amount of tension is better in the organization rather than having it too harmonious. Too harmonious means there is no friction, there is no uh, stimulus for new ideas, right? Uh, integrating, putting things together, putting functions together, putting people and teams together, and that means you can get again better ideas, and then creating, having more creativity in the organization. So these are the types of different activities a strategic leader can look at in a company. Okay, these ones I think are quite easy. Okay, this one I will take you through a little bit. If you look at a strategic leader, right? That's why we told you to take somebody from the top team. Otherwise, they don't experience this kind of activities. They get the chance to determine the strategic direction, basically vision, mission, and key objectives. And then also having a good control environment in the company. That means checking variances always against set norms. This is more thinking visionary, that area. This is more controlling, uh, looking at how do I manage things, right? And with this, you need to look at three things, right? How do I manage my resources effectively? How do I have a good organization culture? And how do I work on ethics? Part of this, basically the values of the company, how do I practice them? So this is, if you look at, quite a dilemma for strategic leaders. One hand, you need to look far, and other side, you need to look at today. And that's a real balancing act. When you do more of this can come down, and if you do more of this can come down. So that's a very fine balance that leaders have to have. And the other thing is vision, mission, and values. Vision means, right, your long-term goal, right? Where do you want to be in 5 to 10 years? Mission is the journey. Mission is the journey. That's why we call it MI2. Mission impossible. The journey that is impossible. So mission means your journey. How do we go? And values are what will we keep close to us? What are our guiding principles? What will guide us to get there? That's why many companies have values like people, environment, society, right? So they have values saying we will go on our journey, but without destroying the environment, without exploiting people, being a socially responsible citizen. We are going there. It's not a selfish journey, but we look after our community, look after our environment while we go there. We want to give something back to the environment while we go there. So these three are, as shown in the picture, is quite interlinked, and the strategic leader needs to make sure these three things are never sacrificed. Now, um, we have Heineken company, we have three values. One is passion for quality, right? Enjoyment of life, because our product is about enjoyment, and respect for people and planet. Now, as I said, values become very important when we are faced with tough situations. And we have made a decision. Whatever said and done, we don't want to cut our people number of head count in the company during this difficult time. So that is guided by the values. And these days, what people do is virtually they have drinks. I don't know how well that works, but virtually they have drink parties, right? Enjoyment of life, right? So passion for quality is everything we do. We have a lot of passion for the best quality because of Heineken. So you need to manage these three areas. Then in terms of managing resources, uh, I think financial resources, physical resources, information, and HR. All these are important to manage as a strategic leader. But I'll go more to this side. See what top executives say, right? 92% of them say organizational redesign is very important. That means they don't like the current status. 86% of executives say culture is a very important issue. 86%. Only 28% of the executives say they understand the organization culture. What does this mean? 72% of executives don't understand the organization culture. And 86% say culture is important, and only 12% say they have the right culture in the organization. So getting this culture right is such a big challenge. Now I have been speaking to lots of students all my life, and very few have told me that they have the right culture in the company, right culture in the company. And you have seen this. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. It looks like a joke, but if you don't have the right culture, you can't implement the strategy at all. That's a very, very important thing. Um, you need to have the right condition to have the right strategy. Even look at the cricket team, look at government, look at any other organization, look at religious organizations. What's more important is the culture before you bring strategy. So that's a real job of a strategic leader. Does he or she cultivate the right strategy, right culture? So there is some ethics here, which I will not go through. And then a little bit on rewards and recognition. So that's basically it. Um, so uh, so if I go to where we started, right? Where we started. So we have come a long way, 10 sessions. And I think overall this was a very engaging session. But 5 sessions we did in class, 5 sessions we did online. But I feel that the connection that we made in the first 5 sessions were very important for us to carry on with the second half of our sessions, because we knew each other, we could relate to each other. But if we did this entirely on virtual mode, the results and the outcome will be a little bit more suboptimal. But because we know each other, we've engaged with all of you, really helped us to take this class through. And if you see, we discussed about introduction, and especially I gave you about the IQ in Sri Lanka and about the whole world being changed, and the skill sets being changed, and how we need to change, right, for the future. And future will require a lot of good leaders in companies, in organizations, because you can have any amount of tech and do mundane tasks through AI, robotics, and lots of other things. But you will have to manage people. So you need to have good leaders. So we looked at this strategic, operational, and tactical leadership levels in an organization, and what are the various functions that each of these leadership that needs to do. So it doesn't matter whether you're in tactical, operational, or strategic leadership right now, but uh, the whole idea is can you start thinking about hold on, why is that? Okay, it's quite small, that's problem. Better, right? So we looked at strategic, operational, and tactical leadership, and what they do, right? And it doesn't matter where you are, so long you understand what the other level is doing, so that you can one day get to that level. Then we looked at concept of power. We looked at five five forms of power, right? French and Raven, 5 forms of power. How these five can be used, right? How these five can be used, we looked at. And using power is part of leadership. And the referent power, reward power, right? Coercive power, all these you need to start using in a proper balance. Then we looked at 6 leadership styles. We looked at 6 leadership styles. Um, we looked at 6 leadership styles and what emotional intelligence is. And we also measured our own emotional intelligence. And we said it's compared to IQ, EQ can be developed. EQ can be developed. And we watched a couple of movies around these, looked at these 6 leadership styles and emotional intelligence. And during this session, we did our most important values exercise. And I think you still have the values exercise, your top 10 values. Don't keep it in the phone. Have a look at it every now and then. That's very powerful for you to make certain decisions and to behave. And also, we looked at our masks, right? What we show outside and what's inside. So we get to know. And all these things we looked at in connection with Johari's window, where we looked at how we see ourselves and how others see ourselves. Then we looked at leadership theory, mainly Tenenbaum and Smith, and also transformational and transactional leadership theories. Then adapting leadership styles, we looked at Hersey Blanchard model, situational leadership, how these 4 situations you can use different styles. Then we looked at culture and leadership. We looked at the Globe project, and also we looked at the 6 leadership dimensions of Hofstede. That was quite helpful for us to see what type of nation are we, what type of culture do we belong to, and what's the leadership style that is suitable, especially if you're going to another country, if you get expats working with you, how do you integrate and work with other cultures? Then we had 2 exciting classes on change management. We looked at the change curve. Also, we looked at ending, neutral zone, and beginnings. And it's very important to end so that we can begin. And this is a very important area from an emotions perspective. How do people go through change? How organizations go through change? And we discussed about change is fast, but transition is very slow. Change is outside, transition is inside. Yeah. And then today we looked at strategic leadership, about vision, mission, and values, and what are the key functions of strategic leadership, and also the importance of culture for a strategic leader. So these are the kind of concepts that we covered, and the nice thing is we didn't leave anything behind. We were able to cover all 10 areas, and you have some summary slides on these with you. Keep them. It will be quite useful for you to come back and look at it. And most importantly, take this message to your companies and teams. Talk about this leadership, and talk to them about the values exercise, the mask. These are ways of really getting close to people. And most importantly, uh, in this 4 months, right? 4 months, right? Or 12, 3 months. See whether you have changed within, whether something has shifted within you, and is it slightly different to where we started in February? I mean, now we are in April, beginning of April. Is there any change? Is there any shift? Is your mindset different to look at organizations, leadership differently? So that's the main intention of this session. So so I enjoyed it a lot, talking to this class. I think this class is very interactive and very mature that way. Lots of fun. So lots of birthdays also. Yeah. So thank you very much, guys. I'm so privileged to work with you guys and have this session. And the good thing is we still meet every Sunday so that we can go through the 2 assessments and make sure that you guys 100% pass through this. But my whole thing is I'm going to push you to learn more from the 2 assignments. Passing everyone will do, but I think important to put you through in the mind of a leader. How can I observe and assess a leader? And how do I look at a change initiative and reflect on it, especially about the people perspective? So that's what we want you to do. And then you can't get rid of me that easy. So next term, I'll be having 4, 5 classes with you on research methods and guide you through up to your dissertation very happily because I love research. So thank you very much. What else can I say? And I'm really grateful that we could do this and complete it without any glitches. So thank you very much.